Hello teachers and hello classmates, my name is Kia and I'm the first presenter from group 2. In this video we are going to cover some points in part 3, the conflict perspective and reaction to deviance, and our group member consists of Tang Chiu Yi, Sat Kanya, Ngư Soya, Hon Sardi and me. Now let's take a look at our contents that we are going to cover today. There are two parts. The first part is the conflict perspective, and we are going to give the definition to the class, crime, and the criminal justice systems. And then we will get to know why the law as an instrument of oppressions. And part 2 is we're going to get to know more the reactions to deviance, that we have 8 points in it. The first is the street crime and prisons, the decline in violent crimes, recidivism, the death penalties and bias, legal change, the trouble with official statistics, the medicalizations of deviance, mental illness, and the last one is the need for a more human approach. So the first part will be presented by me. In order to understand the whole presentation about my part, I would like to give some definition of the words in the context. So the conflict perspective, also known as a conflict stories, it is the conflict and power in society, and that social inequality will inevitably occur of differing interests and value between groups, particularly the competition for scarce resources. For example, crime is caused by the conflict stories because people in the society go against each other and compete in order to fulfill their desires. So their actions tend to lead into the crime. So the crime means the violation of norm written into the law. And the last word is class. So class is one of the groups in society that different type of people are divided according to their jobs, incomes, or educations. For example, it can be upper class, middle class, and lower class. So now let's move to the next slide to understand more clearly about the conflict perspective. So the conflict perspective also caused by the criminal justice system. So what is criminal justice system? It is referred to the system of police, courts, and prisons set up to deal with people who are accused of having committed a crime. So let me give an example that happened to US soldiers in 2008. So there was a manufacturing that produced the helmet for US soldiers. However, there were two former managers report that the company didn't use the sufficient fabric which it used to protect and deflect the bullets. So without the sufficient fabric, it might cause a serious problems to the US soldier and might cause some to die. So after the investigation and found out that the accusation was true. So since we have criminal justice system, do you think that the criminal justice system will punish them? And what was the punishment that they should receive, or should we put them in the trial? However, the fact is that the one who ordered this crime weren't put in trial or spend a night in jail. They just paid fines and they will have another contract to make more American. So do you think that it is fair enough to those who are poor when they are caught stealing something that was not serious as these problems, but they were put into prisons for years? So how can the legal system proudly say that justice for all? Because all of this matter, the conflict theories bring up this question to analyze. So let's look at the next slide and see how the conflict theories say about this. After a long time analysis, the conflict theories think that the power elite or the powerful people use the criminal justice system to protect its positions of power and privilege. And they point out that the law is really an instrument of oppression that they use to sustain the lower class since they are more powerful and they come from high class backgrounds and high educations. More than that, they even use the law as a tool to maintain their privileged position in society. Just like in these pictures, we can see that the man who come to find the justice, but what he receive back is, if you want justice, it's $200 an hour. So we can assume that the law sometimes only happen to those who are powerful and who are rich. So the next point is why law is an instrument of oppressions. So the first point is to prevent treatment by the lower class. Because of the large amount of working class, the power elite concerned that they might be threatened by the lower class if the lower class hold the protest with the current social order. So to prevent it from happening, they try to punish the lower class seriously who get out of line or disobey their laws. And the second point is the working class. So the working class are the least root in society. It means that the lower class has the few skills and low paying, and sometimes they just work as a seasonal worker. So they were treated unfair, and they even consider as at least crucial and at least rude in society. So they tend to punish them strictly to those who committed a crime. And the last point is that they might threaten the social order that keep the elite in power. So if the lower class or the working class they hold the processions towards the social orders, it might impact to the powerful people to use their powers in the society. So it might be a threat to them. So they tend to use the law as an instrument to threaten others people who are lower than them. Now let's move to the last part of my presentations. As you can see in this picture, it is the Federal Trade Commission, or known as FTC. It's really important to those who involved in the business world of the manufacturing industrials, because it is an independent agency of the US government that aims to protect consumers and ensure a strong competitive market by enforcing consumers' protections. And why US created this FTC? Because that back then the criminal justice system does not focus on the corporations manufacturing that they made the unsafe product and creating the pollutions. However, the law can't ignore the violations of capitalism totally, because if it still continue and it will become a serious problem, and it might impact the working class or the lower class and possibly create the rebel to happen, and it might out of control. Therefore, even the FTC is the one who oversees this matter. They still powerless to put those who disobey the laws to imprisons. Because when the company pay the fine for their wrongdoing in the business world, they still continue their business as usual and even got another contract. So we can see that even the FTC was invented, it's still powerless to those who are powerful and who are rich. So that's come to the end of my presentations, and I want to sum up my presentation for you in order to have a better understanding. So the conflict theories stress that the power elite use legal system to control the worker and the social order, and even keep themselves in power. And for the poor post-sleep, because if they rebel as a group, which it will impact the power elite from their privilege. So to prevent this from happening, the power elite or the powerful people make the sentence that will punish the lower class who commit their crimes seriously.
Hello teacher and hello everyone. My name is Tan Chu-yi. I'm the second presenter of Group 2. The main point of today's presentation is the reaction of deviance. I'm gonna cover the first part, which is the street crime and prison. And the rest of the point my team member will share it with you. Generally, people have bad impressions toward deviance. Most of people hate it and wish that it will never happen to them. Unfortunately, we can't stop that from happening. People might meet different kinds of deviant and they may react to it differently. But there is one common reaction to deviance is punishment. People think that bad people could change unless they suffer something bad and struggle to get out of it. After all, people around the world would prefer to live in a peaceful world. And now let's move to part A. It is about the street crime and prison. According to the textbook, it is mainly talk about the American situation of crime. And these situations are quite similar to some other country. So I will use those information as the main focus of this point. Before going to know more detail about it, I want to clarify the word street crime. Street crime is the criminal offense happening in the public space, especially where there was a few people or on the isolated place. Street crime is one of the most common crime because people think that it is the easiest way to rob someone. And we can see here in 2008, about 120,000 prisoners are in for-profit prisons. There are dramatically increase in crime rate from the past until 2008. And due to these issues, United States worry about the locations of the prison and think that it was a waste of money and time to build more places for prisoners. Moreover, they are afraid that they won't be able to build the prison on time for the prisoners. This increase in crime makes Americans hard to dealing with. Now let's move to the next slide. The prisoners. The question is, who will become the prisoners? Most of the prisoners are younger people who age under 35, and they are men. As we know that older people don't have enough energy to commit the crime, especially women who weaker than men. And almost half of the prisoners are African American. Some people suspicious that America treats African Americans people differently and won't give them enough rights so that they commit crime for their living. Although we can't fully stop all kinds of crime, but some factors can prevent people from committing crime. Here are some prevention factors, such as education, marriage, stricter law. Education is the main point that holds people back. According to the researchers, most prisoners are uneducated people. Instead, educated people won't commit crime. In school, teachers have taught students what is right and wrong, and the consequences of doing the bad things like crime. Education helps people know beforehand and become more thoughtful. The more knowledge people have, the more solutions they can come up with, so that illegal things isn't their choice. Another point is marriage. People who are married is unlikely to commit a crime because they still have their family members to look after. If one do illegal things, it will affect the family reputation and they might have difficulty to face the society. The feeling of caring for the family holds someone back from doing the bad actions. More importantly, in the recent decades, Americans stricter the laws. They create the get-through policy and 3 strikes and you are outlawed. These new rules give the criminal more serious punishment. When one commits the felony crime, he or she will be sentenced for a lifetime or to death. And next, let's move to here I would like to show you the conditions of prison in Nuuk, Greenland. Have you ever heard or know what kind of prison is it like? For me, I was shocked when I come to know that kind of prison. Prisoners there were allowed to do many things that other prisoners could not do. Interestingly, their prison has no walls or fences surrounding the prisoners' building, as we can see in the pictures below. The prisoners were locked in their room after 9:30 p.m. when they back from work. The prisoners have a job and go to work as normal people, but their working time is longer. They have to go to work because they need to pay the prison $150 per month. Their wages were far more enough for their prison payment, and they can save some for their family. The average salary they can get is about $28,000 per year. The weird thing about their rule is the prisoners can go to wherever they want, then they have to come back to the prison. One of male prisoners told that he walked to a shop and bought a CD of his favorite group. Then he walked back to prison. More than this, a female prisoner went to a bar, and when she was drunk she called the prison to ask someone to get her back. It is unbelievable for us, but there are a lot more. They were allowed to have guns and go hunting in the summer, but they have to be accompanied by armed guards. People used to ask the prisoners will they run away if they had a chance. The answer is no, because they have enjoyed their life there, and if they run away they would miss the prison. This way of treating prisoners gives benefits to both sides, the prisoners and the government. However, prison still needs to keep the prisoners. All in all, I hope that the crime rate could be declined and we can live peacefully and safely. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you for your attention and let's continue with my team members.
Good afternoon, teacher, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kenya, and here I'm gonna show you about the next point of reaction to deviance. The point that I'm gonna talk about here are the violent crime, recidivism, and the death penalty and bias. The decline in violent crimes. Uh, we, we have seen the judge has put more and more people in prison, and the legislator in the United States law have decided to change their significance to the three-strike law. They have to pass this law up in the purpose of decreasing the jail inmate and increasing the punishment to those who has been convicted of more than two crimes. And as a result, after the law has passed, it has become a controversy between the sociologists, which is they conclude that it is the reason why the crime rate dropped sharply, especially the violent crime, as well as a drop in drug use. For example, the former Attorney General Dan Green office reported that in California, since the passage of three strikes, the violent crime rate has dropped 26.9%, with a 30.8% drop in the six major crime categories. Now let's move on to the next part, recidivism. And what does it mean? So recidivism is the repeating of or returning to criminal behaviors by the same offender or crime. Like for example, Mr. D was rearrested because he was accused of shoplifting again. So this is the meaning of recidivism. The same criminal behaviors and then got rearrested. And just look at the picture on the right side. Like they came out of the prison and then found guilty like the previous crime. And just then they were rearrested and sent to jail again. It's like they do it in a circle way. And moreover, the United States used recidivism rate to measure the percentage of former prisoners who are rearrested. And just look at the picture on the right side. It shows that the percentage of the United States prisoners who were released and were rearrested again within 3 years. And the highest person was stealing car and the lowest one was murder. The death penalty and bias. The capital punishment, also known as death penalty, is a government-sanctioned practice whereby a person is put to death by the state as a punishment for a crime. The sentence ordering that someone be punished in such a manner is referred to as a death sentence, whereas the act of carrying out such a sentence is known as an execution. And according to the advance in DNA testing, because of this rule, some innocent people has been sent to death row and some has been executed. And in the United States, after a person is found guilty, the judge will give the jury the option of imposing a death sentence or life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. And even though it's worked like that, there is certainly clear that the death penalty is not administered evenly because the death penalty has so social class basic. As we know from some new report in the United States that it's rare for a rich person to be sentenced to death. It sounds like people with the powerful or wealthy background are easily escaped from their punishment even though how bad their crime are. And moreover, There is also a gender bias in death penalty. It is so strong that it is almost unheard of a woman to be sentenced to death, much less executed. Although women in the United States commit 9.6% of murder, only 1.7% of deaths brought inmate, and it is more likely to execute a man than a woman. And not only that, there is also have the racial bias. It's like the bias on white people. And according to one of the lawyers in Virginia, he was shocked by the bias he saw in the courtroom. He found that 56% of white and 44% of black people had been convicted for rape and attempted rape in Virginia. The main attempted rape and rape had been executed, and all of those men are black. None of white men were executed, but in 1977 the state wrote new law, and since then 65% of those put to death has been white and 35% African American. So it's all for my presentation, and now let's move on to our next presenter.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sylvia, and I'm going to explain you more about reaction to the wind, and my responsible part are legal change and the trouble with official statistics. So first, I'm going to start with the legal change. Starting with legal change. So we will look at what is crimes. So crimes is whatever act that authority decide to assign. So it can change from time to time according to the decision of authority. As an example, in Saudi Arabia, women cannot drive, and it is considered as crime in the past, but as the law has changed, it is now legal for them to drive on the road. And for another example, after the invention of motorbike, the law have been changed, as there is a new crime regarding two-vehicle theft, so which lead to a change in legal. So next, we will look at hate crimes, which mainly focus on discrimination. So what is the definition of hate crimes? So to answer to this question, here is the answer. Hate crimes is a crime that is punished more severely because it is motivated by hatred of someone's race, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, disability, or national origin. So before the introduction of hate crimes in 1980, it wasn't an issue for someone to attack or destroy other people's property because of hatred. But after the introduction of this crime, if someone tried to attack or destroy someone else's property out of discrimination toward their skin or nationality, they will be punished or sentenced severely by the law. Moving on next, we will look at how legal change and how reaction to deviance have changed over the time. In 1990, as people start to involve more in communication network, there is a new crime that was happening at that time, as there is a lack of privacy to individual people. Those individual people face with problems because their individual information can be easily accessed by other people as well as the criminal. So this leads those individual people to face with computer fraud. Besides that, business also faced with many problems regarding to their trademark, copyright, and patent as well. So due to all those problems and crimes that was happening, there was an introduce of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act in the 1990s, while in the mid-2000s, with the introduce of smartphones, people start to involve more in social media. They use more of the social media. Some people use it in a good way, but not all of the people use it the same way. Some people would use it to promote good project, charity project, but some other people use it to bully other people, like classmates or co-worker. They have their private chat room to talk about other people behind their back, or criticize other people on their social media account. And this problem has led to suicide and other problems like school shooting. So due to all those problems from cyberbullying, there is a new law that was created at that time to prevent cyberbullying. As it has been shown in the previous slide, you can see how crimes has been changed throughout the time and as well as the legal law. So this change was caused by the evolution. So the evolution has invented new technology. With the new technology, some certain groups can gain power from that new technology. And when that certain group are more powerful than other groups, they will have the right to define what is crimes and what is not crimes. So the definition of crimes will change according to their decision. So this will create the definition of new crime or maybe new type of crimes. So this process will going in circle. So the evolution will cause the legal to change again and again throughout the time, even in the future. Moving on to the trouble with official statistics, which is the second point of my responsible part. So both finding of symbolic interactionism and the conclusion of conflict series show the need for caution in interpreting the official statistic. It is unreliable of the official statistic on crimes, and the factor that cause the unreliable of the official statistic are the particular law that exists and how those laws are enforced. Besides these two factors, there is another important factor that affects the reliability of the official statistics. So another factor is how officials report their statistics. So to increase the believability of the official statistics, these three factors need to be changed. The interpretation of official statistics report that boys from working class are more likely to commit crime and arrest more than boys from middle class, and this interpretation has divided into two categories of typical criminals and typical good citizens. So when police are working, they are using this category to make their judgment. When they have a case of African American or someone from working class, they are more likely to decide to arrest that person. But if that person is not African American, they are the white person or they are from middle class, they are more likely to be claimed as innocence, and the police are more likely to ignore that matter. So this has resulted in bias because the interpretation was not accurate to make judgment on criminal case. So here come to an end of my presentation, and moving on next, my member will present more about the chapter, and she will be the one who finish up this whole presentation as well.
Greetings to you, teacher and classmates. My name is Hun Siradi. I am the last presenter of this presentation, and I'm going to explain about the medicalization of deviance, mental illness, and the need for a more human approach, which are the two final points of reactions to deviance. So first, let me give you the definition of medicalization of deviance so that you can understand more deeply about my points. Medicalization is the process whereby the non-normative appearance, belief, and conduct come under medical jurisdiction. Simply means that human conditions and problems come to be defined and treated as medical conditions. And those conditions and problems can be obesity, unattractiveness, shortness, mental disorder, racism, drinking, gambling, or even sexual practices. If we take a look on the last picture, we can see that there are two different scenes where the boy answers his mom's question. So if the boy says he hasn't finished his homework because of his laziness, it is considered as socially unacceptable. But if the boy says because of his laziness syndrome, it means that it is socially acceptable. The medical profession has attempted to medicalize many forms of deviance because they think that those weak behaviors are mental illnesses. In this point, I made a question regarding to my previous slide. Is the deviance a sign of mental or illness? While others believe that mental illness is a sign of mental sickness, Thomas Szasz said, mental illnesses are neither mental nor illnesses, but they are simply problem behaviors, meaning that he believed that the behaviors that are being called mental illnesses have specific organic causes, and those causes are physical illnesses that result in unusual behaviors. However, most of us often say that people are having the sickness in their head, and we always raise the question, which is, why is the person doing like that? Or even, is he sick or something? When people are acting strange or unacceptable. For example, ADD and ADHD, we now use the term of ADHD more often because ADD is now an outdated term which has symptoms including disorganization, lack of focus, and forgetfulness. But the question is why it didn't exist 50 years ago. And the reason is no one is able to diagnose the disease. And it is diagnosed by the teachers and the students' parents. In the history, there was also misbehaving children, but now the problem has become mental illnesses. So let's move on to another example, which is coping with life challenges. Actually, there are two different types of people. Most of us are able to continue our journey. However, some people fail to do that, so they become depressed, uncooperative, and hostile. So if we take a look at the first picture, imagine that you have to pay the rent on the first day of the month. So like if you are unemployed, then you will not be able to pay the rent. So we all at the second stage, which is we become depressed. But it is also the stage that it can lead to two different ways. The first one is we have an ability to solve the problem we faced. And the second one is we're stuck and we don't know what to do. And we don't know which way should we choose instead of doing anything. We're just getting stuck. So the two big examples, which are ADHD and coping with life challenges. Zaz still stresses that these are behaviors. It is not mental illnesses. It basically means that some people may have used inappropriate ways of coping, while some might have used the correct one. Next, according to Zaz, he says that the answers of the problems depend on those people's particular experience in life, not on an illness in their mind. At this point, I'm going to explain how mental illness common among the homeless. So imagine if you're a homeless person sleeping in front of the restaurant and getting no food, and you haven't showered in like a month or even a year. So no one will talk to you just because you're dirty, so only yourself remains. Therefore, you try to open yourself and you talk to yourself because no one will. As a result, being on the street can cause mental illnesses. In the same way, the trails of being homeless, living in cold streets, can lead to unusual thinking and behaviors. So now, let's get into a very last point, which is the need of a more human approach. So, as Durkheim, who was a French sociologist, pointed out that deviance is unavoidable, I'm going to raise a realistic example about white-collar criminal, which we've studied in the previous video, and street criminal. As you can see in the pictures, the first one is white-collar criminal, and the second one is street criminal, and they are punished differently. White-collar criminal only get a slap on the wrist, basically mean they only get punished lightly. However, street criminal get punished harshly. Because deviance is unavoidable, we have to find solutions for deviants to stop behaving in a way that harms themselves and others. The second is to tolerate behaviors that are not harmful. And this final point is to develop systems that offer a fairer treatment. But the question is it really helpful? And the answer is, of course not. It is just like putting a band-aid on a gunshot wound, meaning that you attempt dealing problems in the inadequate way. So how do we fix this? So the best way we need is a more human approach, social system that prevent social inequalities. That's the end of our presentation. If you have any questions, please let us know. You can leave a comment in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching this video.